What is up, guys? It is Brainy Days once again with another video again. So, what we're going to talk about today is something really important, and that is basically how to organize your learning. What do I mean by this? Well, it could have a lot of meanings, really, but what do I specifically mean? Well, there's this mentality that I see that a lot of people lack when they try to self learn topics, whatever it be, just self learn anything in general, and that is that they don't have the multi tool mentality. What is this? Okay, this is something that I've thought about and that I've developed for myself, which I think everybody should kind of use or at least experiment with a little bit and just try to give more time to this type of things, which is to know that for learning, every case is just different. Okay, every topic will have different nuances and ways of learning it, which don't necessarily apply to the other topics that you have already learned. So you have to be able to know that since every case is different, you got to choose the best weapon for the enemy. Okay, now this is a metaphor, right? But you got to choose the best tool for the job. Basically, guys, you cannot kill an enemy which requires a lot of different weapons and advanced movements if you're just a random day one player which knows the basics. That is what I mean. So what can we do with this? We need to define tools that can be used for specific contexts and just build out a different set of tools regarding the different set of topics. So what do I mean by this? We can learn, for example, dividing the topic into practical versus theory always, right? We can, for example, take notes with Obsidian, right? We have the second brain and stuff like that. Um, but at the same time, there's also the approach of taking notes and creating a methodology. Now, this is really used in pen testing. What is this? The difference between this and the second brain is that with notes, you take a structured approach to the notes. So you basically just have a tree structure to organize the different folders. In each folder, you just have different levels of uh, from less to more detail, basically. And you just describe on specific and shorthand notes the basics of the theory of the thing that you learned and then how to apply it, right? Like a cheat sheet, if you want to. And then what you create is for every single thing that you can do, you create a methodology. A methodology is basically aligning all of your notes in a step by step way, in a checklist way, so that no matter what objective you need to accomplish, you can just go check by check and accomplish the goal without even thinking because you already have every corner covered. Now, this is for highly detailed ways of practical things, stochastic things, meaning things that are not deterministic, meaning things that are statistically probable but that are not certain. You know what I mean? So that is one thing. You gotta know if that is a better approach for you, or for example, taking just unstructured second brain notes with relationships in Obsidian. Then, you need to know if you can, for example, break down problems into parts. Now, I'm not gonna go too deep in this because I talked about this in my last video, so you can check that one out. And I'm gonna put it in the description if you want. And then there's also the thing of reverse engineering. This is a pretty heavy thing which everybody should know, and nobody really pays that much attention because you can literally learn anything this way. And that is that you need to be able to watch what people who you want to be are doing, basically, like people that have already accomplished what you want to do, what they are doing. And once you see what they are doing, you need to start to break down why are they doing the thing that they're doing, and why is what they are doing, why is it giving them the results that they have. Because sometimes you may just imitate whatever a successful person is doing, but the results won't come. So you got to know why, in their case, the context applied to make them successful in that case. Because if you know that, then you can switch your actions depending on your own context instead of just blindly copying something irregardless of the context. I don't know if that is even a word. I don't know, but it's there. Anyway, after that, reverse engineering is just basically a way to just see a finished product and just start deducing how you can make it from first principles, and just saying, okay, if For example, you see someone that is successful at having a business, then you start deconstructing each step of the business and what they need to do and what is he doing. And then you maybe see the history and how he changed what he did in the different phases of the business in time. So now you can see, okay, he had this results in this time, and then he changed, and then he got better results. And then you can analyze the context on that, and then you can extrapolate principles that you can apply to your own context. And you didn't have to take any course or anything. You just pretty much thought about it and learned it all by yourself just by deconstructing it backwards. Anyways, besides reverse engineering, there is also systems thinking, which is really, really, really important. And that is to think of systems as cycles and things that happen in life as cycles and systems. And this pretty much is a good analogy because, as I told you, you need to have cycles in mind. You already have reflective cycles if you have watched one of my first videos. And what is that? Is that there's basically a pattern and of a loop that is always playing because we live in a loop, man. We go to sleep and then we wake up and we repeat things. So everything works in that way. So you need to leverage that. And by that, I mean think of everything as a loop. If you can deconstruct everything as a system, meaning deconstruct it as a part, for example, you have a computer, for example, you can have the input, which is like the program you're coding, right? Then the computer, which is what the program goes to, like to execute itself. The computer executes it, right? And then what happens? The computer, as it executes, it produces a result. So now you have the three main things of a system: the input, the system itself, and then the result of that. And basically, you can just model a lot of things with that. You can model, for example, your physique. You want to get a better physique? Well, the system in this case is your body. The input in this case, which was a program before for the computer, is now the calories that you consume. And the results is the body composition that you have as a result of that. And that is a process, that is a cycle that is always constantly executing itself. If you can see the cycles behind things, you will be able to understand them a lot better. So now tying that with the next topic, which is basically analogies and building a backbone of a primer of a topic, and then being able to just add analogies and visualizations to compress that to something manageable for your brain. What do I mean by that? If you can just learn everything by taking the base of things that you already know and finding the similarities of the new topic to those things that you already know, you will be able to learn it way faster. For example, I always do this thing of doing computer analogies to topics that I'm learning, and I always end up learning it a lot faster. So I'm gonna have a lot more videos talking about this. So this is just more of a listing of every technique, right? Then we can build a backbone or a primer. And what do I mean by this is you build the skeleton of what you think of as the base knowledge of the topic. Like if you can boil down the topic, that is the skeleton of the topic. For example, if you're talking about optimization in computers, you have that instructions and the CPU, and the result is basically everything. Why? Because the number of instructions and the speed at which the instructions are executed are basically all of the variables you need to have in mind in order to optimize. And this is not said by me, this is said by an industry pro like Casey Muratori, for example. Anyways, what do I mean by this is you can simplify a topic to just the basic things, and that serves as a guiding wind whenever you're lost, because you always kind of know the backbone of the whole topic in your head. And how do you have it in your head? Well, this is how it connects with the visualization topic. What do I mean by this? Well, you need to be able to, for example, compress the whole topic in a weird image in your head as a sort of mnemonic, because you can have, for example, the primer of the computer optimization thing, which I talked about just then. You can think of the instructions, the CPU, and the number of instructions and the speed, right? So if I can have an analogy, I can think of it as a person that's eating. So if I want to optimize something, it is like having a super obese person that is nonstop consuming things, aka a computer that is always executing things because the code is just a huge mess, right? So if we make that person basically eat a super clean and small amount of food in a diet, the person will change and it will optimize their health and their speed of living and everything. And that is exactly in a way of just mapping optimization to an analogy to a visual. Because now I think of optimization and I think of a plate of food and a super fat person that then just becomes super skinny. So I have this weird visualization in my head, which if I remember the topic, I always can remember the image. And the image can serve as a sort of um, mnemonic that can then just basically sort of sprout the knowledge by the thing that you already had before encoded in your memory. So anything that you want to learn, you can always apply that tactic to it. And the best thing about it too is that you can change the point of view from which you're analyzing the thing, the topic. So you can look at computers, for example, as a programmer, as a security audit, as someone who is just a content maker, as someone who is, for example, a project manager. All of these different things of analyzing one same topic will give you the way of analyzing it a lot more intuitively, because you will know just things that aren't really concretely said, but that are implied. And anyways, that is kind of just the different things that you can have in your mind. Why am I mentioning all of this? Because these are all different tools that you need to slowly build competency in. And these are the ones that you feel out that are the hardest, right? Because it is not something that really talked about by a lot of people. So what I suggest is just pick one of these and go deep into that approach and just experiment, and do the reflective cycles and get better at it. And then start learning the other ones. But never go with the shiny object syndrome. Just pick one, stick with one, and then when you feel comfortable with that, switch to the other one and just make it really straightforward, because you will be able to progress way more than you think, bro. So, yeah, that's it. Hope you guys found this valuable and with a lot of value. And thanks for watching, guys. See you.